Order filled. Welcome back, friends and traders. It is time for Lunchbox Trading. Go grab yourself a ham sandwich and a glass of milk or whatever it is that you like to drink with your ham sandwich. We got Coach Hoop. We got Coach Hogue.
Team ham sandwich.
We're going to talk markets. Team ham sandwich. Man, when you talk about a tough act to follow, that last segment was just absolutely incredible. Francis Green.
Fantastic.
And Lisa Y, number 2 on the big board. Spy Gig 1991. Did a great job. First time on TV. Said she was a little nervous, but I thought she handled herself like a pro. And can't wait to have her back. Maybe do some live trading next time, for sure. That was a great show right there. Speaking of great things, we're a little bit late in announcing this. We're going to bring Eddie in real quick for something very, very special. Eddie?
Oh, special. Well, you gather around, traders, because...
Players and VIPs only.
Yes.
VIP invitation.
Oh, is that VIP?
I feel like a VIP.
Is it about that time? I think it is.
Here we go again.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Demand more.
Well, we're scouting for new traders to join our Top Step VIP. Yes, our VIP. We got the link. There it is. Posted up top. We pinned that VIP link up top in the chat. Click on that. This is number 15 of our VIPs. So sign up in the chicken form. To the chat. We're going to keep this up until 2 p.m. Central Time. Right now, we are about 13 minutes after 12 o'clock high noon. So we're going to keep that up until 2 p.m. Remember, the more you check in, the more entries you're going to have in the draft. So good thing that you're here. Good thing that you're listening and hearing me. Hit that link. VIP.
Order
filled. For those that are new here, what is VIP? What the heck is this VIP thing you're talking about? Well, it's an opportunity to join us for a exclusive 3 free months of a trading combine. Cool. 2 free resets each month. Awesome. Private team chat room with exclusive access to your coach and special events. And once you pass that, there is no activation fee. We want to see you succeed. So click on that link up top. Anybody else that comes in there and says, hey, is VIP cooking today? Point them in the right direction. And hey, stay tuned this week for more check-ins, and make sure that you're here for Top Quiz this week. Remember, 25 winners will be drawn for additional entries. So get yourself in there. Top Step VIP. I'm going to pass this back to JD. JD, back to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Eddie. All right. VIP form number 15 pinned to the top of the chat. It will be there for a couple of more hours. Make sure you click that link and fill out the form if you're interested in joining the VIP experience. Season 3 starting in a couple weeks. We got a couple more weeks of forms coming out too, so make sure you're here. Bell to bell. No exceptions. All right, guys. Let's get back to it. Oh, Hoop. It's about that time of day where things just go quiet.
Sleepy.
Seen anything in the markets right now? Is there any reason to be looking for a trade at the moment?
Oh, there's always a reason.
Noted. There's always a reason.
Yeah, I can find a reason. Trust me. I had
pretty tight right now.
Gold overnight. I kind of want to short it up here as equities firm. I said something in the green room to Hogue. I just think this late in the day, probably just stand aside. I've been looking for a short cattle, but there's not that everybody's interested in what's going on with cattle, but it's got a little issue with some of the cattle that's coming over the border from Mexico. So Secretary of Agriculture kind of closed the border for cattle coming in. That's why cattle blew up yesterday, and why they're kind of hanging around today. So
very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Were you trading the cattle today? Did you just say you had a cattle position?
I was short. Once again, I just it feels toppy. An agricultural market's different than an equity where I'm not saying I can't get run over. I can get run over in any market, but it's not quite the same as an equity.
Order filled.
So it looks heavy here, but there is, once again, I think it's funny, there's a lot of open interest in the options in June cattle around 220. So, now I'm watching, that used to not be a big deal, but, options are becoming a hedge for everything and futures, and they're definitely becoming more and more of a factor sometimes. So,
yeah. In your opinion, Hoop, how long did you say it takes for new all-time highs in cattle to trickle down to the consumer at the supermarket? What's the gap there?
Not long. I mean, if anybody and I shop for my house, so it's it's funny. When you get older, you talk to. Come on, Hogue, I know you do this. You talk to the meat guy in the department, right? It's like 100%. That Geico commercial,
No, we don't talk to the butcher.
And he's like, we can't keep it in, man. He goes, as fast as it comes in, it goes out. So,
it's a perishable item, so it is definitely going to hit the market as far as prices are concerned relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But this starts, what people don't realize is that this starts like a year and a half ago with the feeder cattle. And it kind of works its way, eventually it starts to work its way through. But, and that's a little bit of the problem with what's going on now, because most Mexican cattle that comes over the border, I was talking to my guy Wally there, Hogue, this morning, and, most of that's more of the feeder cattle that comes over the border from Mexico, and once again, if people don't realize, a feeder cattle, by the time it actually gets to, full maturity weight, you're talking about, 12 to 1,500 pounds versus when it comes over as a feeder, it's probably 6 to 8. So, when they get it in the feedlot and, do all they need to do, there's some time in there, but so that's why this kind of takes a little bit of time. Just, it's kind of like a harvest, right? JD, it kind of takes a while for it to work its way into the system. But like Hogue said, it's perishable. Usually when cash is trading at 220, it's we're feeling it when we go shopping.
Yeah.
Do you find that, do you watch the slaughter every day?
Not like I used to, Hogue. I mean, that used to be a huge thing every day when I walked on the floor, especially with trading bellies and hogs and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, I get some data on it. But I think over the years, technicals have, and Wally agrees with me, who's a huge fundamental guy, but more of the technicals have crept in there because that's, a lot of those old school guys we traded with, as I said, 35 years ago this month when I stepped on the floor. A lot of those fundamental guys are, they're some still around, but more often than not, technicals has kind of eaten into that, industry too. So I don't think it's quite as important as it once was. Yeah.
Probably has a lot to do with the hedging using options.
Yeah.
A lot more technical.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more technical.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing like the cattle and hog report on WGN with Orion Samuelson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember those.
The slaughters today, 1,500 cattle and 1,400 hogs.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. And I love when listening to like when I did some stuff for Discord on like a new farmer, which is, when I leased my ground out, 25 years ago, versus what a guy does now, how they use options as a hedge. And I'm like, guys, farmers I knew back 25 years ago weren't using options as a hedge.
No,
they were usually long the crop and long the future. They didn't know how to really hedge it. They knew how to just be long.
Yeah. Orion Samuelson was my next door neighbor.
Was he really?
I did not.
Yeah. For a period of time, like late 60s, he and my dad were buddies.
I did not.
I have pictures of them together
on a Nasdaq chart
on the floor of the board of trade
too.
Yeah, you'll have to find a picture of that, Hogue. We need proof.
Yeah.
Quick check-in on the markets. We got the, looking at the tilt, we got the ES 53% short, NQ 57% short, CL, crude oil 57% short, and gold 61% short. Gold is about to settle in about 8 minutes. 12:30 p.m. Central Time, we will get official settlement price for gold. We'll continue trading until the end of the day, but
that short and gold would have worked. At least a little bit.
Yeah,
short and gold.
Yeah. You see gold that? Do you throw a VWAP, a yearly VWAP on your stuff, Hogue?
I do not have a yearly VWAP on there.
Just throw a yearly VWAP on. You can pull up my NQ chart. I just happen to look at it on the daily. It's that big yellow. Look at that yellow line.
Uh-huh.
That's the yearly VWAP.
That's on the daily, right?
Mm-hmm. Look at once we busted through that. Been to the moon.
Interesting. I'm gonna mark that
That's
down.
Why that top down approach. Either. Yeah. That's if you ever watch some of Brian Shannon stuff, those anchored numbers. I mean, look at Jay. Jay uses it for a lot of different things. I just think, you know what? I heard him talk when I watched a bunch of his videos. He talks about, how long do you use something? Well, if something else kind of gets in the way of it, I take it off, So he's pretty liberal in terms of how he does it, but I just figure attaching a VWAP to the daily on a yearly basis to me is, once again, I just think that's kind of, it worked. I mean, look at how good it worked on the way down, and now it's starting to work on the way up. So,
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
And you apply that to any market, right? It doesn't just have to be equities.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I just think it's that top down, wider view.
Yeah.
We're always looking at 1 minute and 5 minutes, and I think
sometimes
trying to get a bigger picture of when, big money kind of piles in. I think, to be honest with you, I kind of think they look at that. To be honest,
I would imagine they would.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Crude's going to rally with nobody long.
Order fill.
About right.
Take a look at it.
It's about right. No, it's just crude. It just, it's gets a mind of its own.
Yeah, the president's over in Saudi Arabia making deals and crude rallies.
Right. Yep, of course.
Who'd have thunk?
Why not?
Who'd have thunk? Yeah. We were hoping to go the opposite way this morning. We were short gold on the opening range trade.
Mm-hmm.
Crude.
What did I say?
Gold.
You said gold. We didn't take the opening range trade in gold, but we did get short, but we didn't stick with it for very long. It wasn't doing what we wanted. So
That's right. 2 days in a row, I've mixed up crude and gold. Speaking about the markets, my apologies, folks.
And there's some roll action, a little bit of roll action going on in the gold too.
little bit, definitely in
A
crude.
little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably be trading July crude tomorrow. Let me take a look.
There's some
All the
roll
volume
going on.
and all the open interest.
Yeah.
July 132,000 in volume. June 168,000. So maybe tomorrow or the next day we'll be trading July.
Yeah.
We'll adjust
Both of the open interest.
July
What's up, buddy?
N is in Nancy.
Open interest.
July.
Oh, yes.
N is in Nancy.
Yeah, the open interest is already higher in the July contract.
It is this morning 285,000 in the July contract, just about a little less than 182,000 in the June contract. So yeah, we'll probably be looking at July tomorrow. If not tomorrow,
You
definitely
start talking
Thursday.
June, you're talking equity rollovers not far down the road. Oh boy. Oh boy. My least favorite time.
Why is that,
By far.
Hoop? In your opinion, why is rollover so difficult to trade?
You know, it used to happen
This is a good
faster. Yeah, it used to happen faster to me, and now it just seems like it takes frickin' forever. You know, it happens slow and just drags out. And like you've always said, Hogue, when that volume gets
Even.
balance between two markets, it just makes price action weird, and maybe that's a little algo-y in there too, that it doesn't know how to act when it starts moving. But yeah, rollovers it can be such a chop fest.
Yes.
It's a great time when you're on the floor, man. Yeah.
There were traders that would only come in for the roll.
Mm-hmm.
Traders would work 2 weeks every 3 months, and that was it. They trade the roll and then take off again. You wouldn't see him
walk off the floor with a wheelbarrow full of money.
The Goldman roll, that still occurs, by the way. New highs ES.
Oh, is that-
GSCI?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's still, they
Order
still
filled.
roll in cattle and hogs and all that stuff. Believe that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
John, did you fill
They
spreads?
still take positions and all that. Yeah.
Did you fill spreads?
Me?
Johnny,
No.
Yeah, I did.
you did.
Oh, you did.
Sometimes.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, that was the time to cash in. You walk out of there with money in your pocket because you get paid for both
Volume.
sides. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The volume, like Eurodollars was. I used to know a guy. You remember ATZ, Chris Sabas? He used to fill between 10 and 15,000 cars a day, and he used to get a buck and a quarter a car.
Yeah.
Just filling paper.
Yep.
That's a cash register.
Yep.
Yeah,
A little
right.
exposure there.
I remember
but, yeah.
those days. I remember those days. And you know, unless it was a real bad error, you didn't take your own errors. You gave them to somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Order filling was not an exact science.
Oh, and the S&Ps, Hogue, I don't know. I mean, I used to do out trades in there. I don't know how you did that, man. Especially with nickels and, the early part of the S&Ps and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
It was 500 a handle.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I could do it now. I don't think my brain works that way anymore. If you were really busy, I mean, you just have to execute and write shit down later. And if you didn't remember who you traded with, you just hope that they knew the trade.
Matched up. Yeah, that was my job in the morning
Mhm.
was to play Jenga and match stuff up. Yeah. Oh, that looks close. Yeah. Yeah. Those prices
Yeah,
are
but that's
close.
it.
Yeah. The quantity
That
is
looks close.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
JD,
pretty
you
funny.
have no idea. Yeah. That's close as how you wiggled your way through, some of those out trade reports.
Close enough.
And a lot of these,
Guys,
yeah,
a lot of the
exactly.
bigger locals, a lot of these bigger locals wouldn't even write down the opposite broker or trader. They would just write down a quantity and a price, and then they would send their trade checker out to try and find the trade, figure out who they did it with.
Hogue, I used to spend 10 minutes taking my brother's dupes and go, what the hell did you just write down? Because you couldn't tell the month, you couldn't tell the quantity, you couldn't tell the price. And he goes, well, that's December. And I'm like, it is? But I mean, that was your job as a trade clerk,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at a guy like Borsellino who used to do 10% of the volume. You imagine being his trade checker? Oh.
It's like reading prescriptions at the pharmacy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Guys, we are making new highs.
Here you go. Yeah.
Making new highs in the S&P right now, guys. 59.21 half, new high. We're about to trade out. There's a 300 lot offered at 22. 86 have traded out already.
Gold closed.
So I got a question for Hogue. Why no bids? Why no big bids? Why is everything on the offer, Hogue? Is it all being hedged through options, you think?
Interesting question.
Are you
We
talking
haven't seen any
S&Ps?
500,000 lot bids lately. I mean.
Yeah, we haven't seen that. What were the circumstances behind those 1,000 lots? Was it just
Great question.
tariff talk? Yeah.
Well, we were
on the
we were
lows?
a lot more volatile when that was going on. When we saw some of those, it seems cyclical. There's 273 on the bid at 59.1975, 243 on the offer at 59.30. But when we look at the S&P dome compared to what it was maybe just a couple of years ago or a few years ago, I mean the S&P
order
dome,
filled.
There was more than 100 on every bid and every offer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes 200 or 300 on every bid and every offer.
Or we're just
And it's a lot thinner right now. A lot of
chewing through all this
volatility.
stuff.
Look at this thing go.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going.
Rip it.
Where's
Here we
Delta,
go.
Hogue?
What was that?
Where's Delta?
Oh,
You got to be
it's
chewing
positive
through
today.
stuff up. Yeah.
Positive 9,400 in the S&Ps, positive 8,200 in the Nasdaq. That's pretty high for the Nasdaq, but it is congruent direction. I think we got so many traders
Order
short
filled.
yesterday. They're still bleeding out of those.
Yep.
Yep.
We got new highs printing in the NQ right now as we speak also. ES and NQ both tapping on the ceiling to new highs right now. Sound off in the chat. Are you trading this right now? Are you in the market? Are you long? Are you selling new highs, or are you going for the ride into new highs?
Man.
Oof.
Oof.
Oof. Don't sell a directional
Getting
market.
closer. God. It's crazy. A month where we
Order
sat a month
filled.
ago and where we sit now. It's nuts.
Amazing, right?
It's so easy to talk
markets.
yourself into picking tops when it's slow like this and you're just creeping up and creeping up.
Oh,
It's so easy to talk yourself into
Order
trying to pick a
filled.
high.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to sell tops. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Because nobody wants to pay retail. They all want to pay wholesale. Everybody
don't
wants
want
to
a
sell
deal.
retail.
Looking for a deal. Looking for a deal.
Yep.
this is kind of that area I was talking about on the daily. It was like 34. Yes. Get some moving averages around here.
Finally got up to that 5% level.
What was that
23.
level, Hope?
There's the
5% off the March all-time high, 59.23 quarter.
Marking that down. 5% off all time high.
Not there yet in the NASDAQ.
Like it just a little bit. 5% from all time highs. That's not very far, folks. All right, you guys want to do a little housekeeping real quick?
you got it.
Yeah, I'll sweep.
I'll hold the dustpan.
We've got a couple traders that were called up to the
I'll cheer 'em
live
on.
funded account. First up, we've got Perlis. Perlis from Washington. closed out a pair of 50K XFAs, took a total of $17,400 in payouts from those XFAs, and pushed $7,300 into that new live funded account for a nice fresh starting balance. $7,300, decent little cushion there for Perlis. Nice job. We'll be keeping up on your progress on the live funded account. Congratulations. And next up, we've got Nergazi from a local trader here, Palatine, Illinois.
Palatine.
I wonder if Andre knows him.
Yeah, right?
Nergazi closed out 5 150K XFAs, took a total of $85,300 in payouts from those 5 XFAs throughout the course of the life of those 5 XFAs, and then pushed $15,400 into that new live funded account for starting balance of $15,400. Nice job, Nergazi, local hometown boy, Palatine, suburb of Chicago. That is where our man Andre is from also. So big shout out to those traders, and best of luck to you in the new live funded account. Still hovering right underneath the highs of the day.
Why should we be surprised about the recovery in the equities? Order filled. One of the words that I think everybody uses when they talk about the S&Ps, the Nasdaq, Dow, whatever it is resilience. As soon as the threat resolves, or there's the perception of the threat being resolved, they just keep going back up.
Yep. And we heard so much talk too about outflows from institutional investors. All you heard about was stock outflows, and the only thing propping the market up was retail. But it's been. Is it possible for retail to prop up a market
Order
like this
filled
for this long?
It is a large community of traders.
Yeah, but
a lot larger than it used
filled.
to be too, right, Hogue? So,
oh yeah. And now I think with that increase in open interest, which by the way, the initial the preliminary open interest in the S&Ps said
it's like 40,000, wasn't it, Hogue?
43,000. The final came out only 33,000, about 34,000. So they were off a little bit on that, but still, I mean, that's a big jump in open interest. And with the negative delta yesterday, all we did yesterday was trap a whole bunch of shorts.
I did some stuff in Discord yesterday on the 87 crash, and there's a clip in there. Remember Blair Hull?
Yeah.
Hogue?
I interviewed him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you talk about, and I think this is always hard for me to explain to traders of today of, they like when stuff starts coming through and I show videos of guys on the floor and what they were doing, and people in chat just fire through gambler, I said, part of what we did is take on a lot of leverage, and I will never deny that to anybody, but the great traders of like a guy like Blair Hall or a guy like Paul Tudor Jones, I mean, they stepped in front of the freight train. Someone's got to. I mean, the Blair Hall's probably got one of the most famous trades ever of like literally the CME, CME was going to shut their doors that day. And, what was it? He bought the MMI futures over at the Board of Trade. And that literally was like the low. So, like I said, this is why we always say when everything looks the best, we're a little skeptical. And when it looks the worst, that's the way we were trained, Hogue, right?
Yeah. But he was a person that could buy the whole package.
Oh, yeah.
He could buy 1,000 contracts, 2,000 contracts. Because if you only buy 5, there's all the rest of that's just ready to run you over.
Yeah.
If you just say
Did
so,
you ever see
you got them all, right?
The Wikipedia on what he sold his company for. He sold his company to, right?
No.
Goldman, $530 million.
There you go.
Shocker.
Good for him.
Right?
Good for him.
Yeah, he was very frugal though. He was very happy to get a Prius. We were talking about what kind of cars you got. In the interview. I got a nice little Prius,
Nice little Prius.
Can't take it with you, right?
They're not that available. Yeah.
Speaking of trips down memory lane, guys, Hoop happened to share something with us before we started.
God.
You guys want to see something cool?
Yeah, this is going to be
We've
cool.
got Hoop's email confirmation from his very first trading combine. That goes back to October 18th, 2010. I'll read this for you guys in case it's a little too small on your screen. It says, "Hello and welcome to the combine." It wasn't even the trading combine yet. It was just the combine.
No, it was welcome to the combine. Yeah.
Brian Welsh, Director of Scouting, has been assigned to oversee your trading performance as you go through the combine. The details are below. It was a 4-week combine. Started November 1st, ended November 26th. Combine rules: account size $10,000, maximum position size 10 lots, daily loss limit of $1,000.
Yeah,
And no
Any
micros.
liquid futures contract you want. Yeah.
Try and do that.
I think that was back when it was 15-minute delayed data too. Should have been easy.
It was.
Sound off in the chat. Do you think you would have survived the early days of prop firm trading rules? How difficult was it
And no
back then
micros.
compared to now, Hoop? No micros?
Yep. Just load up 10 crude and you can handle what? 1 tick? Pretty much. If you had 10 crude
pretty
on.
much. The rules were tough up until just a couple years ago, all over, around the entire industry. Yeah, it wasn't until recently that everybody started loosening up, easing off restrictions. So the game's changed significantly. Very recently.
Oh, no. Cattle's going to break.
Yeah.
How did you, I got to know, how did you
Part of that
even
was
find
my
the Top
fault,
Step?
JD. I was really strict with the red.
That's a great, you know what?
That's
I have
okay.
to think about that.
Were you in like a chat room somewhere and someone mentioned?
No, 2010. I mean, I had AOL, JD. I could not chat room. I mean,
we started searching for traders on Craigslist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We put out the offer to prove you can be profitable trading futures, and we'll fund you on Craigslist.
Interesting.
It was an email. It was it had to be in, and it could have been from when I was a retail broker out here, whatever network, maybe, because I brokered out here for a couple of years. Yeah, I mean, because then, I touched base with MP, and then that's when they were, starting to recruit the campuses for talent. Yeah, I mean, that's a great one, because I mean, I didn't really talk to. I mean, how did Top Step first start advertising like Squawk Radio and stuff, Eddie? I mean, that was so far ahead of its time back then too,
Yeah.
I remember hearing Hogue in the pit yelling, and you guys had a live feed there, and it was all you needed was Ben Lichtenstein making that call at the same time, and it would have been great.
How long did it take you to pass? So you had a 4-week cutoff in that trading combine. Did you ever pass one?
Oh man. I think we could swing trade back then too, Hogue, couldn't we?
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
Hold the positions overnight?
No, you had to be done by 3:15 so we could run the trade reports. I'm not sure we had trade reports in 2010. You might be right, Hoop. You might be right.
Yeah, because
what did they charge?
Thinking of.
Do you happen to remember what they charge you?
Calls every day.